Now this is going to be the part B video. So this is the second part where I will show you how to make a simple flower with the skills you have already learned. Now if you are content with your bracelet, feel free to skip this, but if you want a little more pizzazz, then let's go ahead and make this very simple flower. We are going to make our slip stitch. Quick review. Take our tail end, we make a circle, well, a loop-de-loop, and we're going to take that tail end, tuck that underneath. We have our pretzel. Fabulous. And we're going to hold both tail end and yarn end and pull the yarn up, and we make our slip knot. Pull the tail to make the knot tight. Very good. So we are going to move on. Wrap your yarn around your pinky and behind your two middle fingers and up above around your top finger. Now we learned how to chain, which is just pulling that through. We also learned the slip stitch. We're going to need those two skills. Now I have my slip knot up here, and I'm going to do my chains. I'm going to chain 3. 1, wrap the yarn around, pull through the loop again. 2, I'm going to do it once more. 3. All right, and if you are able to, you can always look down and count 1, 2, 3. What I'm going to do with my yarn is I'm going to go back through that first stitch just like we did when we joined our bracelet or headband or necklace. So I'm going to go and find those 2 stitches and hold this real close so you can see. This is a blue textured yarn, so you can see it is a little bit harder to see, but we're going through those 2 little stitch sections there, or at least as best as we can. If you can only get it through one, that is fine. And in fact, some crafters prefer that you just go through the one because it's easier. You don't have all that big hassle of going through both sections. But I prefer to go through 2. I feel as though it gives my stitches a little bit more stability. I'm also going to pull my tail out because that's just kind of getting in the way. And we're going to wrap the yarn, take your hook around the yarn, and we're going to slip stitch, which is pulling the yarn through both of those. All right, now we created a very tiny ring. The center is right here between all of those stitches. Now, if you feel like this ring is a little bit too tiny for you to work with, add another chain or 2. You know, this could easily be done with 4, 5, 6, or even 7 chains and still have the look pretty similar to what I'm going to be doing. Now we're going to chain up 10 because we're going to make this into a loopy flower. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ta-da! We have a nice another chain. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hook, go into the center of my circle. And like I said, this is a tiny circle, so if that is too small for you to work with, you don't feel like your eyes can handle it, make a bigger one. And I'm going to go in there, and I'm just going to, with my hook, move that so I can pull the yarn, pull that through the center loop, and I need to pull that through the loop that was on there. And we have 1 petal. And I'm going to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have another 10 stitches. I'm going to go down into my circle, same exact spot, and I'm going to do a slip stitch. So I'm taking my hook, wrapping it, pulling the yarn through and through the loop that was already on there. I gave myself 2 petals. I'm going to do this another 3, maybe 4, but I'm going to aim for another 3 petals, so 3 times doing this. So I will do that, and then I will meet you up after I have done that to see how our progress is going. So I have now done my petals. I just crocheted my chain, my last 10 chain, and I'm going to go into my circle, and the circle for my loop has become more defined as I've worked with it and kind of stretched it out. And I will do my final slip stitch. So I stick my hook in, then I make sure I can pull the yarn down. I pull it through the middle, and then I pull it through the loop that's already there. And I'm going to now just chain up one. So I move my hook around, I have my yarn, pull it through, and I'm going to take my scissors and cut the yarn from the yarn end. Ta-da! And I will pull up on this loop and pull that tight. Now you can see we have a flower. It is, of course, yes, a very loopy flower. It is not a very sophisticated one. I will give you that. But if you had made, but you could easily sew this now onto your bracelet, or if this is a headband, especially a headband for your child, they might love that, or a dog's collar or a cat's collar. They might try and eat it, but you do what you can. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tuck in these. I'm going to not tuck in these tails. I have these two large tails, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use them to sew on my flower onto the bracelet. It's going to be the same idea as we did before. Take my needle, ta-da, and I'm going to thread the needle with one of the strands of yarn. We will tuck this in at the end, but before then, it just saves on the yarn if I don't have to cut it off. All right, and I don't recommend sewing this while you're wearing it. It's a great way to get hurt. Now, if where you joined is extra lumpy, that is the perfect place to then sew your flower onto your bracelet or headband or whatever you made. If it looks pretty even throughout though, just pick a random spot. And we're just going to go into one of these loops, any of the loops, and pull. And then I'm going to go back onto one of the blue sections. So like one of the petals, for example, and we're just going to then go back in through the red and pull. Going back over one of the blue petal sections, one of the chain sections, back in through the red, and pull. The idea is we just want to secure this flower enough that it's not going to fall off just, by doing something simple like putting it on and off. So here we go. I'm going in through another blue section, and each time I do this, I move around my flower because I want to get this well secured. And I'm going back through then the red. And I think I'm back here at my last section. Yay! So I'm going through the blue, going through the red, and pulling up. And you can see here, I have my nice pretty flower tucked on. Now, I am going to tie a knot. True crocheters often do not tie a knot, and if you're using a natural yarn like wool, you can actually wet the ends and they'll just stay and fuse together. That's awesome. I tend to use acrylic yarns because they're much cheaper and a lot easier to wash. But there are other reasons why you would want to use natural yarns if you can. For one thing, they feel a lot better. So I just tied a simple knot, and that's something you're going to have to check your own conscience. If you'd rather not have that knot, don't do it. Now we need to tuck this tail in, and because this is a different color than our bracelet, we don't want to tuck it in on our bracelet side. We're going to try and work this in around our petals, around our flower. And it's the same thing. We're just going in through the stitches and as best as we can trying to disguise that there is this long tendril of yarn hanging about. And I'm actually going to go back through because I think stopping in the middle of a petal would be weird. And coiling this all the way around another petal. And I pull that through. I'm going to give it a quick snip. Be careful that you don't cut your actual project that you just worked so hard on. You should be very proud of if you've made this and you've never crocheted before, or you're just a complete beginner. Good job for you. Way to take initiative. Pat yourself on the back and just say, hey, I'm totally awesome because I just made something. Woohoo! I'm a big advocate of, and I say advocate meaning not that I go out and fight for rights, but I think it is super important to have positive self-talk. We have so many toxic messages coming in on our lives and negativity around us. We just need to bring in the more positive and start with ourselves. Anyways, that's my little soapbox for today. So going back on a different petal, a different spot, I am trying to tuck in this tail. And the idea is, I'll go over here, just going between the stitches as best as we can. I'll pull this up this way. Woo. And go back through. And if watching this is seeming a tad tedious because you're like, all right, I get it. I know how to tuck in my tails. That's fine. I won't fault you for fast forwarding or skipping this section but this is for if you honestly are clueless. Sometimes it can be frustrating. Someone will say something like, tuck in your tails, and you're like, what on earth are you talking about? I am so lost. And then you feel stupid because everyone else seems to know what they're talking about. And we're going to give this a little snip as we have tucked that tail in. And you can, of course, cut your tail end a little bit further out. I just left it there. I'm all right if it's a little fuzzy right there. And now, with just knowing how to make a slip knot, how to chain, and how to make a slip stitch, you can make your own lovely little accessories. And this is something also, I made mine a 5-petaled flower, but you can see, obviously, I could have fit more petals in. I also could have made the petals bigger. I could have tried to do another layer of petals behind. All sorts of things we can do. I will be doing a whole section on just crocheted flowers because they are so much fun. But this is a great project. Congratulations on making your first crochet project, or if you've made others and you just thought you would do something simple and fun, awesome, great job. But please come and watch my other videos as we go along and learn how to crochet.